When certain stars emerge, they don't just capture attention. They reshape entire industries and change what's possible. From groundbreaking performances that rewrote history books to voices that defined generations. These women became more than famous. They became cultural forces that millions couldn't stop talking about, watching, and celebrating. Their influence stretched far beyond entertainment, touching fashion, politics, and the very fabric of American culture. Here are 15 incredible black female celebrities everyone was obsessed with. The princess who revolutionized R&B. Aaliyah Dana Houghton took the music world by storm in 1994 with her debut album, and what followed was nothing short of revolutionary. Working with producers Timbaland and Missy Elliott, she crafted a sound that felt futuristic, blending R&B with electronic textures and hip-hop beats in ways no one had heard before. Songs like Are You That Somebody featured unconventional production choices, including the famous Baby Coo sample that pushed the boundaries of what R&B could sound like. Her whispery vocals created an intimate connection with listeners, while her mysterious persona, often photographed with hair covering one eye and wearing dark sunglasses, made her even more captivating. Beyond music, Aaliyah became a fashion icon with her signature baggy pants, crop tops, and athletic wear that challenged traditional ideas of femininity. Her tomboy style influenced an entire generation and can still be seen in modern fashion today. She successfully transitioned into acting with roles in Romeo Must Die and Queen of the Damned, proving her versatility as an entertainer. Tragically, her life was cut short in a plane crash in 2001 at just 22 years old, but her impact on modern R&B remains undeniable. Artists from Beyoncé to Drake have cited her as a major influence, and her music continues to sound fresh and ahead of its time more than 2 decades later. The voice that changed everything. Whitney Houston didn't just sing, she redefined what the human voice could do in popular music. Emerging in the 1980s, she possessed a soprano that was as powerful as it was tender, capable of soaring to incredible heights while maintaining perfect control and emotional depth. Her rendition of I Will Always Love You became one of the defining singles of the 1990s, showcasing her ability to start with gentle brooding before building to jaw-dropping crescendos. Music critics described her vocal stylings as featuring shivery melismas that rippled through songs and tremulous fluttering that carried the ends of lines into realms of higher yearning. Houston broke down racial barriers for black women on MTV, becoming the first black woman to receive heavy rotation on the network, following the success of How Will I Know? Her influence on singing competitions and modern vocalists cannot be overstated, with nearly every contestant on shows attempting to emulate her wondrous combination of vocal effects. She was part of the 1990s vocal trinity with Mariah Carey and Celine Dion, credited with reviving the power ballad and reshaping adult contemporary radio. Beyond music, Houston starred in films like The Bodyguard and Waiting to Exhale, further cementing her status as a multimedia phenomenon. Her Super Bowl 25 performance of the national anthem in 1991 remains the gold standard that every anthem singer is measured against. Artists ranging from Beyoncé to Christina Aguilera have acknowledged her as a major influence, with Mariah Carey stating that none of them would sound the same without Whitney Houston. The talk show Queen Who Built an Empire. When Oprah Winfrey took over a struggling Chicago morning show in 1984, she transformed it from last place to first place in local ratings within a month. By 1986, The Oprah Winfrey Show went national, and what followed was a cultural phenomenon unlike anything television had seen before. Oprah didn't just host a talk show. She revolutionized the entire format by moving away from sensationalism toward meaningful conversations about life, self-improvement, and social issues. Her empathetic interviewing style created a safe space for guests to share their stories, and her willingness to be vulnerable herself Crying alongside guests and sharing her own experiences with trauma forged deep connections with audiences. Anything Oprah touched became a cultural touchpoint, with her show itself becoming the subject of regular news coverage in major publications. The show reached over 40 million viewers a week in the United States at its peak and was broadcast in over 100 countries. Her Favorite Things episodes became legendary television events where product features could cause sales to skyrocket overnight. Oprah broke the color barrier for national television talk show hosts, and by the early 1990s, she was proclaimed the richest woman in show business with an estimated worth of $200 million. She used her platform to address pressing issues like domestic violence, addiction, and mental health, helping to destigmatize these topics and encouraging viewers to seek help. Her influence extended beyond television into publishing with her book club, which could turn unknown authors into bestsellers overnight. She went on to found the Oprah Winfrey Network and became one of the most influential women in the world. Motown's leading lady Diana Ross and the Supremes became the most successful American vocal group of the 1960s, breaking down racial barriers with their sophisticated pop soul sound. Between 1964 and 1969, the group scored 12 #1 hits on the Billboard Hot 100, a record that placed them behind only Elvis and the Beatles in chart dominance. Songs like Where Did Our Love Go?, Baby Love, and Stop in the Name of Love helped define the Motown sound and captured the hearts of fans worldwide. What made the Supremes particularly significant was their role in changing racial consciousness during the Civil Rights era. They became the idealized image of integration, with their sequined evening gowns and polished performances helping to shift public perceptions of African Americans. The youth of America learned many of its first lessons about racial equality from teen magazines that documented every move the Supremes made, from topping charts to appearances on The Ed Sullivan Show to sold-out Las Vegas bookings. Diana Ross's voice and captivating stage presence made her the focal point of the group, and her sophisticated style set a new standard for female artists in the industry. The group made 17 appearances on The Ed Sullivan Show, bringing black artists into millions of American homes during primetime television. By the mid-1960s, only the Beatles and Elvis could command greater crowds at live concerts. Diana Ross left the group in 1970 to pursue a solo career, which was greatly aided by starring roles in films like Lady Sings the Blues and Mahogany. Her solo career produced 6 #1 singles, making her one of the most successful female solo acts in music history. Breaking Hollywood's highest barrier. On March 24, 2002, Halle Berry made history as the first black woman to win the Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in Monsters Ball. As an emotional Berry clutched her Oscar, she tearfully called the moment "so much bigger than me," and declared that the door had been opened for actresses of color. The significance of the win cannot be overstated. 74 years had passed since the Academy Awards began, and no black woman had ever won in the lead actress category. Before Berry, the only African-American actress to win any Academy Award was Hattie McDaniel, who earned the statuette for her supporting role in Gone with the Wind in 1939, when she and her guest had to sit at a segregated table at the ceremony. Berry had already established herself as a versatile actress with roles ranging from a drug addict in Spike Lee's Jungle Fever to a Bond girl in Die Another Day. But Monsters Ball showcased her dramatic range in ways audiences hadn't seen before. She had previously won a Primetime Emmy and Golden Globe for portraying Dorothy Dandridge, coincidentally the first African-American woman to be nominated for Best Actress back in 1954. The same night Berry won, Denzel Washington became only the second black man to win Best Actor, marking the first time black performers had taken home both top acting awards. More than 2 decades later, Berry remains the only black woman to win Best Actress, a fact she has described as heartbreaking and one of my biggest heartbreaks, as the door she hoped to open has yet to welcome another black actress through. The supreme tragedy nobody talks about. Florence Ballard was the original founder of the Supremes and the one who chose the group's name from a list of options, but her story took a devastating turn that few people know about. Growing up in Detroit's Brewster Douglas housing project, Ballard had a powerful voice and sassy stage presence that made her a crowd favorite, often interrupting Diana Ross's solos with witty comments that brought down the house. Behind the scenes, tensions grew as Berry Gordy pushed Diana Ross to the forefront, giving her more attention and grooming her for superstardom, while Ballard felt increasingly sidelined. According to multiple biographies, Ballard struggled with weight issues that drew criticism from Gordy, and she began dealing with depression and reportedly turned to alcohol as the group's internal dynamics became more difficult. By 1967, after performing at a show while inebriated, Gordy fired her from the group she had founded, replacing her with Cindy Birdsong. What followed was a heartbreaking downward spiral that stands in stark contrast to Diana Ross's meteoric rise. Ballard received a settlement from Motown that sources indicate was reportedly much less than she deserved, and financial mismanagement left her struggling to support herself and her 3 children. By the mid-1970s, she had lost her home and was forced to move in with family, living on welfare while her former group continued touring and recording. In August 1975, Mary Wilson brought her on stage during a Supremes show in Los Angeles, where she stood in a soft spotlight to receive cheers from fans who still remembered her. Florence called Diana Ross shortly after that appearance, in what Ross later described as a very strange call, possibly attempting to heal old wounds. On February 22, 1976, Florence Ballard died of a blood clot at just 32 years old, her funeral attended by thousands who mourned the loss of a founding member whose contributions had been largely forgotten. The First Lady of Song's quiet power. Ella Fitzgerald possessed one of the most extraordinary voices in American music history, with a 3-octave range and the ability to improvise complex scat singing that left audiences speechless. She rose to fame in the 1930s and 40s, becoming known as the First Lady of Song, and setting standards for jazz vocalists that remain unmatched. What made Fitzgerald particularly remarkable was her versatility. She could swing with big bands, croon tender ballads, and improvise intricate jazz phrases with equal mastery. Her songbook series, where she recorded the complete works of composers like Cole Porter, George Gershwin, and Duke Ellington, became definitive interpretations that influenced generations of singers. Fitzgerald sold over 40 million albums during her career and won 13 Grammy Awards, but her impact went beyond commercial success. She broke racial barriers by performing at venues that had previously been segregated and used her platform to advocate for civil rights, though she did so more quietly than some of her contemporaries. Her collaborations with Louis Armstrong produced some of the most beloved recordings in jazz history, showcasing her playful side and incredible timing. Despite facing discrimination throughout her career, including being denied service at restaurants even after performing to sold-out crowds, Fitzgerald maintained her dignity and let her artistry speak louder than any protest. She continued performing into her 70s, and her influence can be heard in vocalists across all genres who strive for the clarity, precision, and emotional depth she brought to every song. The Scandal That Shook Hollywood. Dorothy Dandridge became the first black actress nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress in 1955 for her role in Carmen Jones. But the Hollywood system was never designed to support her success. Stunningly beautiful and extraordinarily talented, Dandridge broke barriers simply by existing in spaces where black women had never been welcome, performing at venues like the Mocambo nightclub that had previously excluded black entertainers. She became a sex symbol at a time when interracial relationships were taboo, and her romance with white director Otto Preminger was kept secret because it could have destroyed both their careers. The film industry didn't know what to do with a black leading lady who couldn't be cast in stereotypical roles, leaving Dandridge struggling to find work worthy of her talents. After Carmen Jones, she was offered demeaning parts that she refused, choosing dignity over steady employment. Financial troubles mounted as bad investments and reportedly poor financial management drained her resources, and her personal life was marked by 2 failed marriages and the heartbreak of having a daughter born with severe brain damage. By the early 1960s, Dandridge filed for bankruptcy despite once commanding $10,000 per week for nightclub performances. On September 8, 1965, at just 42 years old, she was found dead in her Hollywood apartment from an overdose of antidepressants, with the coroner ruling it either suicide or accidental. Her death came just weeks before she was scheduled to appear in a new film that might have revitalized her career. Halle Berry, who portrayed Dandridge in a 1999 biopic that earned her an Emmy, has spoken about how Dandridge paved the way but paid an enormous price for being first. The revolutionary who made lemonade. Beyoncé Knowles Carter's evolution from Destiny's Child member to solo superstar to cultural icon represents one of the most remarkable careers in modern music history. She has won 32 Grammy Awards, making her the most awarded artist in Grammy history. And her albums from Dangerously in Love to Lemonade to Renaissance have each marked distinct artistic phases that influenced pop culture. What sets Beyoncé apart is her ability to blend music with powerful visual storytelling, creating complete artistic experiences that transcend traditional album releases. Lemonade, released in 2016, was both a deeply personal exploration of infidelity and black womanhood and a broader commentary on race, femininity, and resilience in America. The surprise visual album featured poetry by Warsan Shire, samples of Malcolm X speeches, and appearances by the mothers of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, and Eric Garner, making it impossible to separate from the cultural moment of the Black Lives Matter movement. Her 2023 Renaissance World Tour raked in more than $579 million worldwide, and the accompanying documentary topped the box office with $21 million its opening weekend. Beyond music, Beyoncé has influenced fashion, dance, and even language, with phrases from her songs becoming part of everyday conversation. She launched Ivy Park Fashion Line and has used her platform to advocate for gender equality and celebrate Black culture. Her work ethic is legendary in the industry, with collaborators describing her meticulous attention to every detail of her performances and recordings. She represents a new model of Black female stardom, where artistic vision and business acumen combine with social consciousness. The tennis champion who changed the game. Serena Williams dominated women's tennis for over 2 decades, winning 23 Grand Slam singles titles and establishing herself as arguably the greatest tennis player of all time. She and her sister Venus, who won 14 Grand Slam doubles titles together, emerged from Compton, California, breaking into a sport that had been overwhelmingly white and upper class. Serena's powerful serve and aggressive baseline play revolutionized women's tennis, bringing an athleticism and intensity that changed what female players believed was possible. She faced racism throughout her career, from opponents making derogatory comments to umpires issuing questionable calls that many observers saw as racially motivated. Despite these obstacles, Williams accumulated more Grand Slam singles titles than any player, male or female, during the Open era when she surpassed Steffi Graf's record. Her impact extended beyond statistics. She became a fashion icon who designed her own tennis outfits that made statements on the court, from catsuits to tutus that sparked conversations about body image and athletic wear. Williams advocated for equal pay in tennis and used her platform to speak about issues affecting Black women, including her own harrowing experience with complications during childbirth that nearly cost her life. In 2022, she withdrew from the Olympic final individual all-around competition to focus on her mental health, opening up conversations about athlete well-being that challenged traditional expectations. Her retirement in September 2022 marked the end of an era, but her influence on tennis, sports, and culture will be felt for generations. She proved that a black woman from a working-class background could dominate an elite sport and become one of the wealthiest female athletes in history. The voice of soul who demanded respect. Aretha Franklin earned the title Queen of Soul through a career that spanned 6 decades and produced 17 #1 R&B singles. Her voice combined gospel roots with pop sensibility in ways that made her recordings both commercially successful and artistically transcendent. Respect, her 1967 cover of an Otis Redding song, became an anthem for both the civil rights movement and women's liberation, with Franklin transforming the song's meaning by adding the famous RESPECT spelling and the "sock it to me" backing vocals. She was the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987, a recognition of her profound influence on popular music. Franklin grew up singing in her father's church in Detroit, where the emotional power of gospel music shaped her vocal style, and she brought that spiritual intensity to secular songs about love, heartbreak, and perseverance. Her piano playing, often overlooked, was sophisticated and essential to her recordings, with Franklin arranging many of her own tracks. She performed at the inaugurations of 3 presidents and sang at Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral, using her voice to mark pivotal moments in American history. Franklin recorded over 100 albums and won 18 Grammy Awards. But numbers alone cannot capture her cultural significance. Her renditions of songs like Natural Woman and Think became definitive versions that other singers still try to match. She maintained her relevance across decades by adapting to changing musical styles while never compromising her core sound. Franklin continued performing into her 70s until health issues forced her to slow down. And when she died in 2018 at 76, the world mourned the loss of an irreplaceable voice that had soundtracked American life for generations. The supermodel who broke every rule. Naomi Campbell became one of the first black supermodels to achieve international fame in the 1980s and 90s, breaking down barriers in an industry that had been overwhelmingly white. Discovered at 15, Campbell graced the covers of hundreds of magazines and walked runways for every major fashion house, but her success came despite facing blatant racism throughout her career. She was famously told by designers and magazines that they couldn't use black models because it would hurt sales, and she fought back by speaking publicly about discrimination in fashion. Campbell became the first black model to appear on the covers of French Vogue and Time magazine. Milestone moments that opened doors for models of color who came after her. Her walk became legendary in the modeling world, with her confidence and commanding presence setting standards that aspiring models still study. Beyond modeling, Campbell acted in music videos, television shows, and films, expanding her influence into pop culture more broadly. She was part of the original supermodel generation alongside Cindy Crawford and Linda Evangelista, women whose fame transcended fashion and made them household names. Campbell has been outspoken about the lack of diversity in fashion, using her platform to call out brands and publications that exclude models of color. She continues working well into her 50s, proving that age and beauty standards she helped challenge can coexist. Her career spans over 3 decades, a longevity almost unheard of in modeling, and she remains one of the most recognized faces in the world. The gymnast who prioritized mental health. Simone Biles became the most decorated gymnast in history, with 32 Olympic and World Championship medals. But her most important moment came when she withdrew from competition to focus on her mental health. At the Tokyo Olympics in 2021, Biles stepped back from the individual all-around final, explaining she needed to protect her mental well-being after experiencing the twisties, a dangerous phenomenon where gymnasts lose spatial awareness mid-air. The decision shocked the world and sparked intense debate, with some calling her courageous and others questioning her commitment. Biles became an unexpected mental health advocate, demonstrating that even the greatest athletes are human, and that mental health is just as important as physical health. Her willingness to prioritize her well-being over medals challenged traditional expectations of athletes, particularly Black women athletes, who face additional pressure to be strong and unemotional. Biles was the first American woman to win 7 national all-around titles and the first female gymnast to win 3 consecutive world all-around titles. Her skills include moves so difficult that some are named after her, and she performs routines with a degree of difficulty that other gymnasts cannot match. Beyond gymnastics, Biles has been a vocal advocate for survivors of sexual abuse, testifying before Congress about the FBI's mishandling of the Larry Nassar case and the systemic failures that allowed abuse to continue. She represents a new generation of athletes who use their platforms to address social issues and mental health, refusing to be silent about problems within their sports. Biles returned to competition and won additional medals, proving that taking time for mental health doesn't mean the end of a career, but rather the beginning of a healthier approach to athletic excellence. The actress who redefined Black womanhood on screen. Viola Davis has consistently chosen roles that showcase the complexity and strength of Black women, earning her the distinction of being the first Black actress to achieve the Triple Crown of Acting with wins at the Oscars, Emmys, and Tonys. Her performance in Fences earned her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in 2017, and her portrayal of Annalise Keating in How to Get Away with Murder made her the first Black woman to win the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Drama Series. Davis grew up in poverty in Rhode Island, and she has spoken openly about her difficult childhood, including periods of hunger and living in rat-infested apartments. She didn't fit Hollywood's conventional beauty standards, and she has been refreshingly honest about the racism and colorism she faced throughout her career. Davis has advocated for better roles for Black actresses, noting that opportunity and representation matter as much as talent. Her acceptance speeches have become notable for addressing inequality in the entertainment industry while celebrating Black women's achievements. She founded Juvie Productions with her husband to create content that tells diverse stories, taking control of her career in ways that weren't possible for earlier generations. Davis's willingness to appear on screen without wigs or makeup, most notably in a scene from How to Get Away with Murder, where she removed her wig and makeup, challenged beauty standards and sparked conversations about authenticity. She has played everything from historical figures to complex contemporary characters, bringing depth and humanity to each role. Davis represents a shift in Hollywood where Black actresses are not just breaking barriers, but demanding that the barriers be permanently removed. Though she's no longer with us, the obsession with these remarkable women continues to shape our culture today. Each of them carved paths through industries that weren't designed for their success, faced obstacles that would have stopped most people, and emerged as icons whose influence extends far beyond their original fields. They proved that talent, determination, and refusal to accept limitations could change not just individual lives, but entire industries and cultural perceptions. Their stories remind us that representation matters, that breaking barriers requires courage, and that the women who came before us fought battles we may never fully understand. The next generation of Black female celebrities stands on foundations built by these pioneers, and the obsession with their achievements continues because their impact was real, lasting, and transformative. They didn't just become famous, they changed what was possible for everyone who came after them.